Okay, so welcome to a new video. So before I start, I want to apologize for the audio quality. I'm actually in a new room using a new microphone, and I'm aware that it might sound a bit echoey and a bit bassy, and I'm not quite sure how to actually fix that. So if anyone has any suggestions for improving microphone quality and recordings, then I'm 100% open to that. And also, before we start this video, I've been trying to think of ways, and it's been a while since I've actually published a video. I've been trying to think of some ways that I can take my channel to the next level and do something that's kind of somewhat unheard of, and I think it's really going to help people a lot with their publishing. But it's very likely that next month what I'm going to be doing is actually showing off some of the new books that I have made under a very specific new author name, so just for people that watch my channel to go and see that book, those books. Okay, so it's going to be about 5 or 6 different books, and I know a lot of people are going to say this is crazy and stupid, but at this point I don't care that much, because having nearly 15,000 people that are subscribed to this channel and listen to me ramble on and on for like 20 hours per video means the world to me, and I want to try and continue to give value back to people in whatever new ways that I can. So if that's the level of transparency and those type of videos are what interest you, then yeah, make sure that you stick around next month, because it's going to get pretty interesting. Okay, so just quickly before we get started, I just wanted to give a shout out to another channel that I found recently. So I'm quite active at looking at the whole YouTube KDP scene, and this is not a criticism, but a lot of channels are now, including mine, that they're kind of the same, they're becoming the same sort of thing that we talk about. So I've been looking for channels that kind of offer something different, that talk about the different side of publishing, so not the whole keyword and niche thing and running ad campaigns and that whole side of thing. I'm talking about people that actually know how to write books, people that know how to design things and create great stories. Okay, so a channel that I want to give a quick shout out to is by a person called Jules Marriner. I'm gonna link her in the description below somewhere, but I highly recommend that you go and check her out. It's not a typical publishing channel, but if you're interested in creating your own books, your own stories, then I think you're going to get a ton of value out of her channel. Okay, so back on track. This isn't going to be your typical KDP income report. I'm not a fan of doing them. I don't think they really serve much purpose other than to maybe give people some motivation. I don't believe that they really work or make sense, because in order for them to make sense, you'd have to show people exactly what you're doing, because it's the exact books that you're selling that are making you that income. So it's not going to be like that. It's going to be kind of hopefully done in a way that I can give people motivation and be realistic, whilst giving a comparison between 2 Amazon platforms that you can sell on. So those 2 platforms being KDP, which is selling your books, and then FBA, which is selling physical products. Okay, so recently I've got into FBA. It's been a few months now, a couple months of learning it and then a couple months of selling. So what I want to do in this video is to share off some of the results from the first 3 months of my FBA experience and the first 3 months of my KDP experience. Okay, so if you ever watch my channel, you know that I don't do that whole kind of side hustle thing. Those channels that seem to have like a new secret money making loophole method every single week that don't actually work and waste your time. What I want to do is to bring real information and experience to the table, and talk about viable ways that you can actually create an income online. So the areas where I've actually made money online since I started were KDP, obviously, Etsy, which I haven't touched for I think over a year now, and Amazon FBA, and of course there's YouTube, but YouTube isn't something I can talk about, because realistically I'm just very lucky to have the audience that I have. So the 2 that I currently work on the most are KDP and FBA. So in this video, what I want to do is try to do a comparison between the 2 platforms to maybe help people decide if FBA is something that's going to be viable for them as well, and how it pairs up against KDP, while taking a look at some of the results that I've had from each platform. Okay, so if you're new to this channel, you haven't subscribed to me, and you like the idea of these type of videos and you want more of these, feel free to subscribe, etc. But yeah, I'm not very good at plugging myself, but the more subs I get, the more motivation I have to make videos and to actually try out new ways of making money online. Okay, so had it not been for getting so many 15,000 seems like a lot to me, at least, subscribers to this channel, I wouldn't have ventured into the whole FBA thing. So yeah, subscribe to me. And by the way, if you're not familiar with what FBA is, it means Fulfilled by Amazon, which is basically selling physical products through Amazon. Okay, so there's a few different ways that you can do that. A lot of people are interested in doing the whole private label thing, but the way I'm doing it is through wholesalers. Okay, so I'll explain this in different videos, but for the sake of this video, let's just take a look at a few different sort of head-to-heads, and then for each section here, we're going to have a winner for each round type of thing. You'll see what I mean when I actually get started. Okay, so let's just kick this off with what the easiest to get started with, and we give a kind of a winner for each round or whatever. You'll see what I'm doing here. So the easiest to get started with should be obviously Amazon KDP. You can literally have a book published within a few days, so it's going to be the obvious winner here. But that of course doesn't mean that it's going to be the quicker way to make money. It's just more accessible than selling physical products. Whereas with FBA, depending on how you're sourcing products, it's almost definitely going to take you longer to get your products up for sale. So for perspective, my first book took me about a month to write, and it didn't actually start making any sales until like 2 months after that. Whereas with Amazon FBA, if I sent in the stock, I can start selling that stock off within a few days of it arriving in Amazon's warehouse. But regardless of which platform can make you the money the fastest, it's without a doubt that KDP is the one that's you could be able to get your product to the market the fastest. So the winner for this round is KDP. Okay, so round 2, which is the fastest to make sales. Okay, so which platform can you see sales with the fastest? Again, it's obvious that KDP should be the winner, but the winner here isn't actually so clear. So as I said a minute ago, it took me a long time to write my first book, and then even longer for it to actually make a sale. And just like a lot of people doing KDP, you'll find that it takes, even to make your first sale, it can take a very long time, because it's definitely not an easy platform to crack. So what I want to do here is take a look at my income reports for the first 3 months on each platform. Okay, so if we come across to my KDP account here, what we can actually see here, there's a lot going on, I know, but I started back in, just opened the account in December 2011. And this period here, this was basically when I was publishing ebooks, and things were pretty crazy. Like, as you can see, I could get around 2,000 sales sometimes back in 2014, which is, those were the good days for publishing. But yeah, I didn't actually, so this whole period here, I was just, I did nothing basically with my life, and I didn't do any publishing whatsoever. As we can see, there's no units being sold here, but I think it's toward the end of, if you're following along on the paperback section at the top of this box, it was toward the end of 2018 that I actually started publishing paperback books. So I think it was August that was it August or September that I started writing my first book, and then it didn't actually start making sales until November. As you can see, 12 units sold here. So I think between September, October and November, when I actually sort of kind of got started with it all, I only saw 12 sales there for my paperback books. Okay, so it did kind of pick up a little bit after that, because this was during Q4 obviously as well. November was right in the thick of it. But as we can see, as we scroll along here, like if you just keep watching the paperbacks here, like they didn't really start up until sort of middle of next year. And obviously when you get toward Q4 in 2019, that's when things start to pick up. And yeah, most Q4s, should be able to hit over 1,000 sales quite easily. But yeah, the process was very slow, and that's basically between those two periods a year, and that's how long it's taken me to start making sort of a steady amount of sales. So across KDP, like the paperback, the ebooks, and I don't have hardbacks yet, but audiobooks and selling on different platforms, you're looking around sort of 20 to 40 sales across all of them most days. And for pretty much most of my, other than my super low content books, most of my books on KDP, I think the highest that I sell for is $14.99. Most of them sell for, the coloring books and activity books sell for $10.99. So I tend to price on the higher side to take those higher royalties. Okay, so whoops, I've just realized after watching this recording back that actually my new monitor has cut off a ton of what I was actually trying to show you. So I'm very quickly going to go through this again and try and get to the point as quick as I can here. So basically I started writing this book in 2018 in August here. So don't worry about the free units and the paid units that you see here. That's from years and years ago. But basically we can see here, wrote the book, 0 paperback sales. 0 paperback sales in September 2018, 0 in October 2018, and then finally in November 2018 actually started seeing some sales. So we're looking at over 3 months until I actually started seeing some sales on a book that took me, I took a lot of time during that month. It might have been longer than a month actually that I spent writing that book. And the royalties, I priced it at $7.99 I think it was, which was incredibly low. really desperate to get sales. Like, it felt impossible. You know that feeling that you feel. It was no different in 2018. I can promise you that feeling of not making sales on your books and feeling like it's just a load of bullshit. Basically, the whole thing just doesn't work anymore. That's what I was feeling at this point. But what you can see is that over the course of 2018, things actually started picking up as I started creating a couple more books. So these weren't low content books at this point, I don't think. You'll have to forgive me and my timeline here, because I can't remember the 3-month period where I produced the loads of low content books, but nothing happened during those months anyway with those sales. But what we can see here, and this is something that I wanted to share in terms of my mentality toward KDP, is that basically toward Q4, pretty much every Q4, you'll start seeing a spike in sales. And then, as you can see, my second Q4 was when things really started taking off with 500 sales or more than 500 sales in November, probably closer to 700 across all platforms. Then December, well over 1,000 across all platforms. And the thing is, like, even though it dips after that, you can see like sales will go down after Q4, 400, all the way down to 280. I don't actually care, to be honest, because I don't want to have to create hundreds of books every single month. What I want to do is to be able to price my books higher. So a lot of my books are, like I say, at $10.99, $14.99. I want to be able to take my books up to $20.99. It sounds obscene. I've had people tell me that you can't price your books at $10.99, but it's what I do. It's the way that I'm making my money without having to. I don't know. Is 1,000 sales a lot? I don't think it is. I know people make way more sales than that, but I'm looking at how much money that will actually make, and being able to price my book higher and then living for Q4 is what makes me a huge portion of my income across the year. Okay, so you can price your book higher if you have a high quality book. All the things that I've said in this channel, a high quality book, add value to it, and make sure that there's traffic going to the niche that you pick. Pricing higher, running ads to those books to make sure they get ranked on the first page for the keywords, etc., etc. All the things that I talk about in that 2-hour video, again, link below, go watch it if you're interested. All those things will lead up to making great money, especially over Q4. Okay, and it's pretty much the same for most Q4s, like December 21 here, for example. Again, over 1,000 sales across all platforms, and again, at that higher price point, you can expect to make some very good money. Okay, and like I say, I don't really care if it peaks up and down through the course of the year. Like, my motivation is to pretty much always be prepared for Q4, and I'm going to start making books for Q4 very, very soon. And I suggest that you have the same mentalities, that you think about the books people are going to buy during that period for Christmas, etc. Always have that mentality that Q4 is going to be your big reward at the end of the year, and everything else over the course of the year is just an additional bonus. But that's just my mentality. I know some people are happy to publish hundreds of books every single week and make their money that way. It's not for me. This is just the way that I find KDP to be manageable. Like, I just can't sit here all the time and do it. I don't know how people can do that, producing hundreds of low content books. But for me, this is the way that I can make the money, take my hands off the business a little bit and actually focus on other things like FBA and maintain sanity, which is very important as well. Okay, so yeah, hopefully that gives you an idea as to how long it actually took me to get started making paperback sales with KDP. And I'm going to edit this back into the video now, so it's probably going to sound completely out of place, but yeah, enjoy the rest of the video. Bye. Whereas if we go across to Amazon FBA, my Seller Central account here, we can see the first 3 months here between January, February, March, April, May, and no, this is the first 2 months of selling on FBA. Okay, so I've had £2,000 of product sales, which I think is $2,500. So that's not profit, but in the first 2 months, I've had 333 units ordered. Now, it doesn't take much to work this out, but I'm making around between $1 and $2 profit per sale, sometimes less, sometimes more. You can work that out. or you can take a guess at the very least. And yeah, that's the comparison between the two. So for me, actually, FBA is the one that made me money much quicker than KDP did. Which is interesting because I've always been told like there's no point in doing FBA and KDP is the one that's gonna make you rich and blah 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 blah. But it's not been the case for me, and I wanted to make this video as a kind of a reality check because there's so much misinformation going around, especially about KDP. And you can see from my account, I've been publishing since 2011, and even when I got started back in 2018. It was still hard. It still took a long time, a year before we could sort of see those 1,000 sale months, right? Whereas with FBA, I do feel like I'm a complete beginner with it, but I've progressed much quicker than I had with my paperback publishing, okay? Okay, so just touching back upon, I know the title of this video is the whole income report thing, and I know that people like watching the income reports because it's motivating. So if you can take any motivation from this video and my income reports here, is that I work on my publishing business in chunks of like 3 or 4 months. Okay, so it can go hands off pretty much for a long time, and then when it starts dipping, then I work on it for like 2 or 3 weeks really hard just to sort of top it back up again. Okay, now the biggest mistake, I've said this so many times, like the biggest mistake that I've made and the most regrettable thing that I've done with publishing is to just bang out low content books, like really generic low content books that serve no purpose whatsoever in the marketplace. I wasted 3 months, all these months from 2018 onwards, like I wasted so much time doing those whole low content book things. I think it was like a 3 or 4 month period where I produced maybe 200 low content books, and they sold like terribly. They were awful, and it's what a lot of people are doing. So the sales happened from books that were unique, basically the first of their kind on Amazon, ones that were basically things that I've been saying in my videos, that everything that I've said in my videos is what I've been doing for my books, like taking existing niches, then adding value to them, having a really great cover made, understanding who your audience is, and then running ads to those books. Okay, so if you haven't seen that stupidly long 2-hour video that I made, it basically is everything that I do. It's the mentality that I've had with my publishing business for a long time now. So if you haven't watched that, I'll link it in the description somewhere. But yeah, if you can take some motivation from this, like just know that the amount of active books I have on my account now is probably less than 100. Okay, so it would have been like 400 had I not unpublished the horrible low content books that I made in, I think it was September 2020, I can't remember. But just know that you can make great sales if you just switch your mindset ever so slightly. And hopefully this will actually help people move away from doing the whole generic low content book thing. And I guess it's kind of the same with Amazon FBA. Like I've always been told to steer well clear of Amazon FBA, but when you do things in a certain way, in a way that makes sense, following people that actually know what they're talking about, then you can make sales. You can make sales this year, next year, 5 years time. You can keep making those sales, I promise you. And also, if you make good books that people want, this sounds obvious, but if you make good books that people want, you can charge. You can go toward that $10.99. You can go as high as $14, $15.99 if you're making good, higher content books as well. People are willing to spend that money. And I can't remember exactly what the royalty is for a $10.99 or a $14.99 book, but it's a lot better than the $6.99 books that people are pushing at the moment. Okay, so next round, which is the easiest to make sales with? Okay, so I can only speak on behalf of my own experience and what I've picked up from other people's experiences over the past year or so from being on YouTube and talking to more people. I'm going to say without a doubt for me it's been FBA. As you can see from inside my dashboard, that FBA was the one that I found easier to make sales with. The way that I'm selling on FBA is in such a way where we're selling under listings that are already established on Amazon. So these listings have tons of very specific buyer traffic going to them. So in terms of those listings, the hard work is already done for you. However, with KDP, you're basically creating a brand new product where you're unsure where you're going to end up on Amazon, whether your audience actually wants the product, whether you have to spend ads on that to get that audience to see that product. And regarding ads, by the way, if you're interested in doing the whole KDP ads thing, want to save yourself a lot of time, a lot of money, then you can pick up my free ads course, which is in the description below. And then from there, after that, you have to hope that you have an understanding that your product is good enough to actually make sales in the long run, okay? And for most people watching this video, you're probably already experienced enough with KDP to know that it can be quite hard to get a book to stick around and make sales for a while. Whereas with FBA, the listings have potentially already been there for years and you're just piggybacking off of them. So the winner here for me is going to be FBA. Okay, so next round, which needs the most investment? So the beauty of KDP is that literally anyone can get started without investing any money at all. The platform exists for anyone that wants to self-publish. I'm not going to debate whether is that a good thing or not for the platform, but it is what it is. It's a platform that has got huge traffic going to it, and it's going to be accessible by pretty much anyone, and anyone could do it without any money as well. Now with FBA, you're going to be selling physical products. So for me, I'm finding wholesalers in the UK, finding products that are already selling on Amazon, and then sending them into Amazon's warehouses to be sold. So to do this, you have to spend money up front, and I know that's scary for a lot of people. I think that the first order that I did for my FBA stock came to around £200 or £150. Maybe around $250. That might be. I'm not quite sure. It is possible that you can spend less, but what you'll find is that when you're talking to a wholesaler, they tend to have a minimum order quantity. So naturally, that means the cost is going to be higher for you to order from them. Okay. So for this to work, you have to spend money up front. I'd say it is possible with the right wholesaler that you find to do it for less than $200. But on top of that, you're going to need to spend money on packaging equipment, so things like boxes and tape, poly bags, etc., etc. So the clear winner here, and that's obviously going to be KDP. But again, just to make it clear, that doesn't mean that just because you can start and do the whole KDP thing for free, it doesn't mean that that's going to necessarily be better. I mean, that's going to be good for people that are willing to design and work hard for a long time. But I don't think you can doubt that putting money into KDP is actually a good idea as well. Okay, so which platform has the most hurdles that we need to overcome? So this is going to be a draw. None of it is easy. None of it's as glamorous as it's made out to be. But once you get there, it's the most rewarding thing ever, I can promise you. But of course, there are hurdles involved with pretty much anything that involves making money online. So for KDP, for whatever reason, KDP is kind of like, it's portrayed as this kind of get-rich-quick side of Amazon. It's heavily portrayed that way as well. Especially with the whole low content book thing as well. And it took me a while, especially to get past that type of hype and for reality to set in. And that reality being that it takes time and effort. Your main hurdle here will be putting aside the mentality that like, hey, I've uploaded a book, like where's my money? And then trying to treat it as a business instead, something in the long run. As you can see from the sales on my account, like it took it a good year for things to actually get going. And I figured that I knew what I was doing back then as well. So it's all part of the process. You have to look at this in the long run and just accept that some of your books are going to fail. In fact, a lot of your books will probably fail. And if you can accept that going into KDP and going forward, then it just becomes something you accept as part of the process, okay? So yeah, the sort of main hurdle here with KDP is that it's basically the failure to sell your product, isn't it? So you create a new book, which is a new product, and it doesn't sell. So that could be caused by many different things, like a bad book cover, bad niche, low quality book in general, poor grammar, not being a native English speaker. It's all realistically things that can affect your book's performance, okay? So it can feel like there is a ton of guesswork with KDP, and that's because there is to some extent, right? You're putting books out there and you're kind of hoping a little bit. So the biggest hurdles with FBA is 1, being able to actually find wholesalers, and then 2, finding products from that wholesaler that will actually make you a return on your investment. So for me, I can spend all day searching for products and not find anything, okay? But for perspective, I think possibly 35 to 40 profitable products in the last couple of months. But then again, I am notoriously lazy, so possibly if I upped my efforts, I could find more. But it is certainly something that you have to dedicate real time to, okay? And also getting accepted by wholesalers can be a nightmare unless you know how to approach them as well. And another hurdle with FBA, especially for some people, I found this out myself as well. I hope I can get a picture on screen. I might have one of the mess that it actually created in the house, because you have to have the stock ordered to your house, and whilst it might not seem like much, it will take up a lot of room, because you think you have like your tape and your boxes and your bags and all these different products all over the place. It does take up a lot of room. It does get messy. I'm not very organized myself. So yeah, that's another hurdle that you kind of have to get past. And I think once I start scaling this, I'm going to have to maybe get a storage unit, which again is going to be an additional cost on top of that. And one of the biggest and most frustrating hurdles that you would come across with FBA is that once you've sent your products into Amazon and actually being sold on a listing, what you'll find is that other people, like, pretty much anyone can sell on a lot of listings on Amazon, is that what happens is that you'll send the product in and it will start selling on a listing, and then someone else who is selling on that listing will undercut you. And the problem here is that what happens when someone undercuts you, the temptation is to undercut them. They undercut you, you undercut them, and it's just a race to the bottom, basically, to the point where no one makes any money. But there are ways that you can kind of get around that. I'm not going to talk about that in this video, but it is something to be wary of, and it is extremely frustrating. Okay, so next round, which is the riskiest? So this may be a slightly controversial opinion here, but I'm going to say KDP is actually the riskier. I know people associate risk with the amount of money you spend, and with FBA you have to spend money, therefore it should be riskier. But for me, time really is the biggest thing that you can waste, especially on with KDP and some of the info that goes around about KDP. I'm trying my best to stay respectful here and not rant about KDP on YouTube scene, but for me, I do feel like I've got a kind of social obligation to not send people down a really pointless path. And honestly, spending your days, because I've been here and I've done it for 3 or 4 months, spending your days uploading generic low content books that you make in Canva, yes, it works for some people, but for most of us, it's going to be a waste of your time. I would honestly rather just someone have, pay someone £1,000 and they tell me to not have wasted my time doing that and have that 3 months back instead. So I wasted so much time whacking out those low content books. I know people are still doing it. I know people that watch this video are still doing it as well, and the results are terrible. People see nothing for it. It makes no sense, and people are still doing it. And Amazon is flooded, absolutely flooded with those type of books. And the thing is, when you create a book fast, typically the quality is going to be very low. So even if the Amazon is flooded with that type of book, you can think like, oh, well, maybe I can run ads to my book to push up the ranking. It won't work because the book sucks, and you're just going to be wasting money on ad spend, okay? And actually, my friend over at the Sleepy Pilgrim channel, which I'm sure you've heard of by now, has a couple rather amusing videos about the type of books that are being uploaded onto KDP. So if you're curious about how angry one man can get over low content books, then go check that out. So yeah, back to the risks involved here. So like I say, KDP, you can waste a ton of time, and that sucks. But the risk with FBA is that you can buy stock and it doesn't sell, obviously. But if you do things in a certain way, you can pretty much guarantee that a lot of your stock will sell off, maybe not straight away, but over time. Whereas with KDP, you can actually spend a ton of money as well on a book. You can spend a ton of money on the interior, on the cover, spending money on the ads. You can spend time doing your niche research, spend time treating your listing, etc., 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 just for your book to fail miserably, right? So the winner here is clear for me, and that is Amazon FBA. Okay, so next section here is which has more pros that outweigh the cons. So the pros of KDP are that you can get started extremely quickly. You can start with no upfront costs. There are endless possibilities when it comes to niches and the type of people that you can target within those niches. The flexibility and creativity that you have with publishing is absolutely awesome. There's lots of ways to gain additional views to your books, so social media, ads, etc., etc. KDP can be scaled quite quickly, especially if you start seeing sales from a certain niche. You can double down on that, and by that I mean creating different books in the same niche, not spamming Amazon with the same book and a different cover. KDP is accessible by everyone, for better or worse. Anyone can try their hand at KDP, whether you're interested in low content books, medium content books, higher content books, whether you've got money, whether you've got no money, whether you're a designer, or whether you're just a Canva pro type of guy. It is accessible by everyone. That is why the platform exists in the way that it does. Multiple income sources for certain books, so the ability to publish your book as a paperback, a hardback, an ebook, an audiobook, and also to spread that out across other platforms as well is a big pro for KDP. And then we have, it is very easy to create your brand around your books. Okay, so the pros of FBA are you have a very high chance, if you do things in the right way, you got a very high chance of selling off your stock and making money. The next pro is that you can see sales within a month, maybe less if you do things right. The next pro is that you can have a more kind of mechanical approach to the point where you can't necessarily get it wrong as KDP. You could just have to put in the time and it will pay off. And it leaves the guesswork to a point where it takes the emotions out of it completely. Whereas with KDP, you know that feeling where you spend a lot of time making a book and you spend some money having the book cover made and it just doesn't make any sales and it feels kind of like, it kind of takes that feeling out of the business. And the last pro is that it is, again, scalable. And I know people that are making 6 figures plus with the business model that I'm following. So big pro here is that there's a lot of potential for the money that you can make. So the winner for this round, KDP is a clear winner here because of its almost unlimited potential. This might be slightly different if I was creating my own private label product and selling it through FBA, but I'm not. I will be in future, but just not yet. Okay, so which is the overall winner out of KDP versus FBA? And I think you're already going to know the answer that I'm going to give you here, and that there isn't really a winner because it depends on too many different factors. If you're new to the whole online thing, then it's definitely a good idea to get your feet wet with KDP because it's much easier to get into, and you know it's going to be the free route that you can take. You're only going to be spending time, and during that time you're going to be learning the ins and outs of things as well. However, if you've got the money to invest and you're looking for more of a guarantee on that return on the time and the money that you're spending, then I do think FBA is actually the better pursuit if you do it the right way, of course. And I think what a lot of people's ideal scenario is, for those that have just interest in making money online, basically, is that you start with publishing. This is the route that I've taken, basically, is to start with publishing, invest that money into FBA, wholesale FBA, and then invest that money into having your own product, private label being sold to Amazon as well. Okay, so can Chris talk about FBA more? Yes, I can. I originally planned to take this onto a separate channel. In fact, I did make a separate channel for it. And then I realized actually it's really hard to think of like separate individual videos to make like certain topics for FBA. So it's a very hard thing for me to talk about, but it is something that I do wish to talk about. So I think future videos might come onto the channel that you're seeing right now. I've spent a long time trying to learn things in a certain way, but I just don't know how to get that information across in videos. I almost feel like it'd be one of those things that'd be better to do kind of one-on-one with people on like a Skype call or something like that. But you know, it's early days for me. I can't offer anything like that, obviously, until I'm making decent money, but it's something that I will consider in future. But you know, I will be keeping the channel updated with my FBA progress. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope this gives you a kind of motivational insight into what it's like to sell early days on KDP and FBA. Maybe it's going to help you make a decision as to which you want to pursue in the long run. I highly suggest, if you have the time and money, to do both. I would love to keep talking more about FBA, but I really need to think about how to actually present the information because I'm struggling a bit with that. But rest assured, once I start scaling this business up, I will have lots more information on it. And again, if you like this level of transparency and you're interested in pursuing ways to create an income online, ways that actually work, proven to work, strategies that are proven to work, then I hope that you'll consider subscribing to the channel because I will continue to bring honest information and high quality videos to it. Anyway, that's it for this video. I'll see you in another one very soon.